Big market move today, just like the last couple days. So a lot of movement in the market. We'll go over that and talk about today's plays. Let's get started. Good afternoon. This is Ifan from the Strategic Day Trader, and this is your market wrap for May 12th, 2021. Q's down 2.6%, SPY down just a little over 2%. Coming into today, okay, neutral bias. Okay, we'd seen the Qs really start to retrace the move. Okay, and then the SPY was holding support. Today we got a gap down. Okay, underneath, basically to the lows from yesterday for the Qs, and for the SPY, yeah, to the lows as well. So, in the same way that when we look for these gaps, let's say on the array, right? That you get this gap and there's shock value. There's a little bit of unexpected of an event going on, or like the MGNI that we played on Monday, right? You know, going into the end of the day or the day before, you get net buying, and then all of a sudden, right? Everybody who played it the day before and stuck with it is now underwater, so they want to exit. Sure, a lot of people on the array, anybody who's in this base, and especially people who in it from the day before, which we saw there's net buying, right, want to get out. So we saw that kind of shock value show up on the Qs and the SPY, which we don't really get that much, right? Like a green bar of some kind and then negation. We can see we got one here as well. Okay. So I was not expecting a big gap down today or the sell-off that we got, at least until we got the gap, okay, which was like pretty close to the open. Okay, so I was expecting maybe we chop around sideways, and then from there, if we follow through on the sell setup, right, that's where we start the bearish bias. Well, we just gap down to where the target would be on the sell setup. Okay, so we just gap down to it. Okay, so where does that leave us going into tomorrow? Okay, we're actually in the same place that we were in going into yesterday. Okay, now if you remember, on Monday, right, we got this little bit of a breakdown here, and the expectation was, all right, we followed through, but we're a little bit extended. We had a very bearish day here. If we gap down, expect us to get bought. If we gap up, then probably chop around a little bit, and then maybe in the afternoon we sell off. Okay, we sell off, maybe return to the lows, or at least start the move lower. Okay, next day we did the big gap down, and then we got bought. Okay, I'm not expecting a big gap down tomorrow morning, but if we do, it's going to be I'm expecting us to get bought again, right? Because we are now again extended on the 20 May here, on the hourly here, coming from a decent sized red bar, not as big as on Monday. Okay, and then more, and then deeper into support. So we're actually into the same bias that we were going into yesterday, which is we gap down. I expect us to get bought. If we gap up, we may move up a little bit and chop around, and then maybe in the afternoon look for weakness in the market, or if it starts, you know, maybe on Friday, it gets the follow through. Okay, so I'm expecting the hourly downtrend to continue, but recognizing where we are, right? We've already made the new low. See how this downtrend is going? Is down and then creates a higher low. That's what I was asking for, right? Going after the sell-off, the bearish bounce that I was talking about. We get the bounce, lower high, bounce, and then so I'm kind of expecting us to get a lower high. So if we gap up, I'm expecting that's how we'll do the lower high. Maybe we'll chop around, set that pivot up, come in the morning. If we gap down, I expect us to get bought. Okay, so bearish overall, but not the place to be, especially on a gap down tomorrow, starting the bearish position or the bearish bias on the Qs and SPY. Okay, all right, so basically the same idea that we had yesterday, okay, on the Qs and the SPY. All right, if you were in the room, right off the bat here, we played the ARRY. Wonderful call from Sammy here on the ARRY. Here was the gap down. We already looked at this gap a little bit just to talk a little bit about the shock value, but breaking down here, breaking down to all-time lows. Really nice job, those of you that stuck with it all day or replayed it in the afternoon. It was a nice play in the morning. And you know, I just didn't I was feeling really impatient this morning. I kind of could tell from the beginning, and I'll show you kind of what I did to start off with. Um, is that I played this break right here. Let's zoom in here. So I played the breakdown right there. Okay, let me get this right here. So I played the break, and then it immediately reversed. So I killed it over this bar. Okay, and I said, okay, I'll get back in under the half number because that's where it stops, 1750. So that's not something that I typically will do unless, you know, it's like a you know, a lot of volume came in and it gives an inside bar. So that kind of told me today I just was not very patient. Okay, so I got out of it. Okay, over 70, lost a little bit on it, and then what happened? Came right back down. So I had to replay it, and then the replay got a little bit late because I didn't. It was on an uptick, didn't get filled till I think like 43. So it was supposed to be under 50. Yeah. So so it's good that I got back in. It was a little bit of a tighter stop on the replay, so that aspect of it is nice. So we'll get a little more, bit more shares. But I got out of it when it broke on the 5, when the 5-minute bar by bar was taken out. Okay, so over that. Okay, so that's where I got out. Yeah, and it was, you know, pretty early on in the morning, and as I've shown many times on here, I like to go hourly bar by bar on anything that has a good case to be a runner, and something at all-time lows. I mean, what else would you want, really? I mean, you know, it's good. It's starting a new trend because actually the trend on the weekly has been mostly sideways here, right? I'll show you the weekly. So it's starting a new breakdown. Okay, you got the volume, you got the pullbacks, you got the basing. It meets all the criteria. Just today, just wasn't patient. And so I kind of just was like, you know, I'm just going to take it, move on, look for other stuff for whatever reason. That was just how I was today. And unfortunately, didn't really, wasn't the right call. Now, you also could have replayed it here. Okay. Just a 5-minute base breakdown in here is fine. Yeah. 20 MAs, caught up, starting to curl over price again. Another breakdown, and it was good. It was good. And then we also talked about in the room why we wouldn't play this long, right? Even though you could say, well, at some point it was down 30% and 35% and 40%, right? And 45% at some point, right? Small bars, no retreat, no acceleration, no volume. I asked the room why was this never mentioned by any of the moderators as a long play, and boy, you guys gave me all the right answers right away. So that was great. So yeah, just a power trend lower, right, on the ARRY. My favorite gap today was actually the GO. So these gaps I've liked a lot. I've been seeing them follow through really, really well. Do you remember the VRSK here where they break that grind? They've been grinding and then they gap underneath it. HBI was a little bit similar, just a little bit into more support here, but it's the same idea. And HBI did get to the first target, but then failed on the rest of it. So you know, these gaps I've been focusing on a lot. Really like them. The GO, it just was really spready. Now you look at this red bar and you say, well, if you shorted it today, you probably did well, and that's true. But on this, I just didn't like the way it was trading. It was just really kind of had some spread and kind of choppy. And like this right here is not my play here. I know for some maybe it is. That's a good setup. But for me, it's a little bit too questionable because it's like trying to do higher lows here. And the first bar is like kind of a big green bar. So yeah, this, I mean, I guess it's nice. You do have kind of like the well-defined top there, but it's a little bit too aggressive for me. So it came in hard and then didn't really give another setup till like here as a sell setup, but then again a little bit shallow here. And then this breakdown's okay, but then it only gives you a little bit before kind of not working on any kind of back half. So yeah, this was the favorite gap. These are the kind of gaps I've been seeing a lot of work really well, and they close at end of low of the day. And so I'm sure Qs and SPY helped this a little bit, you know, to be as weak as it was. But yeah, I was just kind of a little bit sloppy. I saw the same thing with the light. The light I thought was a good gap into some support, but then just like kind of sloppy throughout the day. Not really trending that nicely. Some setups here and there that looked good weren't really going. So, you know, and this is what I told the room today. I thought that today everything worked. Like if you go through, if you look at the calls, then you'll see that pretty much everything worked. But it wasn't the easiest as far as management, I thought. And then some things were spready, sloppy, or like, IFRX. You couldn't get filled. Like, look how pretty this is, right? Really tight base. So it was kind of, it wasn't identifying what was going to go up or down that was hard. It was the getting filled and then managing, because like I said, the light. Look at the SLQT sloppiness, which I don't know if this like is a bad tick or if it's real or not. Probably a bad tick. But even this, look at this breakdown and then hard pop, and then it looks like it's gonna roll over again, another like stuff like, and then goes and makes new lows. So I thought there was like a lot of that today, which didn't make it necessarily easy, but I think overall should have done well, even if some things just would look really good and then kind of make it difficult. Okay, so I don't know. It doesn't really suggest anything to change as far as management goes or going into tomorrow or anything. Just how I thought today was. Okay. All right. So hope you did well today. Tomorrow, we're bearish on the market, but if we gap down, expect it to get bought. Every other scenario, I think, watch for weakness later, just because we've already gotten the follow through to the downside on the Qs and SPY. Okay. All right, guys. I will talk to you tomorrow. Have a good evening.